It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's,
Craig Price is the man.
I knew it. Craig, shut up. It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Patrick Allmond is here to discuss list building. Thanks for joining me. Hope you are well. We've got a good show for you this week. By request, which you can do by sending an email to craig@speakercraigprice.com. A listener asked if I could find someone who could talk about building lists for marketing. You know, we've all seen the newsletter pop-ups or websites where they ask you to join their mailing list. And in fact, an example would be to go to realitycheckpodcast.com and sign up for the newsletter. You'll see who's on the show in advance, get access to extras, and more. Something like that. But then, what do you do with all those emails that you've gathered? This is where I'm not very good with lists. I mean, I collect them, but then it's not like I'm constantly spamming people or constantly sending out marketing material or sending out things of use that are not podcast related. So I called upon our resident guru, past guest and good friend, Patrick Allmond. I seem to know all the terminology, but application has been my weakness, so I wanted to talk to Patrick from the perspective of starting from scratch. Where do you even begin, and what is the process to grow that list? And the more people you have on the list, the more chances of a sale. So let's find out all about list building with Patrick Allmond. As many times as I've seen you this year, I'm surprised I haven't had you on the podcast. I think this was like our sixth interaction. I mean, I've seen you in person probably 3 or 4 times this year, which is unusual.
Right.
We've talked.
Some of them I was even conscious and aware.
Yeah, not recently, but yeah. I got to see your lovely wife. But the fact that you have on, I looked on, I was like, this is crazy. We get Patrick on because the man knows his stuff. And someone asked a question. They wanted me to talk about list building, which is something I am horrible at.
Right.
And so I thought, well, who is the best list builder? I actually put that out there, and overwhelmingly, your name came up.
Wow.
The XY people just assume somehow that you must be the list builder. So let's talk about it, man.
Okay, good stuff.
Building your list in this context, I guess it used to be you'd send out direct mail, and then you'd get things back with their addresses or something like that, or you'd collect addresses at an event, and you just kind of build your list from there. But nowadays, it's online. We're talking about emails. Why is it so important? Let's lay the foundation. Why is it so important to even have a list?
Okay, well, let's talk historically just a little bit, because you touched on something. The old world of direct mail, you kind of lived and died by those. Remember Avery used to have like those little labels, like the sheets of labels where it was like 10.
I'm looking right one, yes.
You have like 10 by 3 on a sheet, and you'd spend, the old direct mail guys would incorporate their family and their kids and probably violate some child labor laws with their own kids and have their kids putting those labels on thousands of envelopes. Well, all of us now hate snail mail, so the new thing, which if you do it wrong, people are still going to hate you, is the mail world. So as they say in the speaking world and other worlds, your email list is your retirement plan. It's the people that love you, and to me, it's just one of those automatic required things. If you're going to have a website, if you're going to try to sell anything online, even if you're a speaker, it's just one of those things you have to have. It's not even a question anymore. Oftentimes, people will call me and they say, hey, is this something I should be doing? What point in time in my speaking career should I start? Or what point in time when I'm doing e-commerce should I start? I feel like reaching across the wires and shaking them violently and saying, you should have started yesterday. Let's stop talking about this. Let's do this. So yeah, it is how nowadays you build your direct mail list to get in front of people.
And I think if anybody has any clients whatsoever, you have a list of some sort. It may not be as large as you'd like, but you have a list, even if it's 6 people. Even if it's your 6 biggest clients, you have a list to start with. So let's talk about that. If you're just starting out, is it okay to just grab like all your LinkedIn contacts and throw them on a list? Is it okay to go on Facebook and get everybody on Facebook on a list? How do you start your list?
If your goal is to build a list of people that are going to hate you, that is the absolute best way to do it.
That's a byproduct of what I do. It's not my intention, but sometimes that just naturally happens.
Exactly. I mean, there's a book out there someplace, how to lose friends and infuriate people. That would have to be chapter 1 of that book right there. No, it's not really good to pick up people that really don't want to be on your list. And that's something that people are really afraid of when they get list building. They're like, I don't want to annoy people. I don't want to put people on my list who are going to hate me. And that's, of course, then nobody wants that. I don't want to do that. And I hate being on lists that I never signed up for. So the goal is to always make it voluntary. One of the two cardinal rules, in my opinion, when it comes to list building is, number one, always make it voluntary. Don't ever put anybody on there that doesn't want to be on there. And for some reason, we're still screwing that rule up. And the second cardinal rule is to make it easy to get out of it. It should be extremely easy. 1 or 2 clicks and you're gone. But do not import Chamber of Commerce lists. Do not import your LinkedIn list. Do not import your Facebook list. Don't, for the love of all things as a wholly, do not buy a list. I mean, these are things that are going to get you into probably email purgatory on your way to the other place.
Let's talk about those bot email lists, because I think a lot of people, they want the easy way, they want the quick way, and if they have some cash, they'll pay for it. But explain how awful those lists really are.
Well, what happens is companies on the internet are harvesting everything about us nowadays. Everything from our eye color to what kind of cheeseburgers we like to credit card numbers, and email list is one of those things that harvests. And people that harvest that information sell it. They sell it for a profit because our personal identity online has a value that can be sold. It might be 20 cents. It might be $5, it might be $25, just depends on who's buying it. And so there are companies where you can go out there and you can say, here, I have $1,000. I want to buy a list of 500,000 people in the U.S. between the ages of 25 and 40 who are making an annual income of $1 million. And I like that kind of list because I know I would not be on that list right now. But lists like this that are qualified, you can purchase those, and then people will import those into one of those email programs we're talking about and just start spamming the dickens out of them. And that happens to me daily. I'm sure it happens to you on a regular basis. And when that happens, it's just a way to get a bad reputation. Your account's going to get canceled. You're going to make people hate you. And that's just not the way you want to start out in the emailing game.
So you've got 6 people that you consistently talk to who wouldn't hate you if you put their name on a list. So where do you start?
The first thing I would kind of remind people about this, because starting is a really hard thing, because people will go into their email list and they'll say, oh, look, I have 1 person. Or I have 6 people like you're talking about. And it's really depressing to look at that. But you have to remember that every single person, the Joe Polishes of the world, the Frank Kerns of the world, the Tony Robbins of the world, every single person started with a little tiny email list. They all started with 1 person, or like you said, 6 people on your list. So your goal is to get started as soon as possible to build that list up. So you're going to want to jump into some software, and I don't know if we should touch on those now or touch on those later.
We can touch on it now. You might as well, because like I said,
okay.
I want to get to the point where we have nothing. Right now we have nothing.
Right.
We're desperate for any clients we can get, because we've never had a list before. We've only sent direct emails to people. We've never actually sent a newsletter or an offering to somebody. What software are we going to start with to get names? Because that's my hardest part when I talk about anything, is that
right.
Often people give me advice, which is great, but they give me advice like I have 100,000 people on my email list, and so they're like, oh, well, you need to do things like that. Would be great if I had 100 to 700 people on my list.
Right. I'll give you a good example. I just acquired a local client here. This is more of a retail client, but it works in the speaker world too, that they maintain their email lists. They send them out via Outlook, and they have a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, where they've been keeping probably, a couple hundred names. The first thing I did with them is I went over to MailChimp, and I always like MailChimp as a starting point because it's free. And, in our world, in the speaker world, oftentimes we're dealing with people that may not have a lot of revenue. And last time I checked, MailChimp was free as long as your list was below 2,000 people. I'm going to check on that while we're talking right now.
You know what? That number rings a bell to me, so I'm gonna like outside verify that. It sounds exactly right.
Right. So, and so it's going to be a while till you get to your 2,000. Till you get to your list of 2,000. Yeah, it says right now forever free, up to 2,000 subscribers and 12,000 emails per month. So if you have a list of 2,000 people, which is a decent size, you could email them 6 times a month, and you still wouldn't pay anything with MailChimp. So the first thing I did with a client is we got a MailChimp account, and we import those email addresses from Excel into MailChimp. We sent as soon as possible. We sent them their initial email blast. It might have been a welcome email. It might have been a freebie email, because what's going to happen is MailChimp is going to send that out and then start verifying those email addresses. Because I guarantee you that out of a list of a couple hundred email addresses, some of them were wrong. And so we had a decent bounce rate, maybe like 1 or 2% of those email addresses are wrong, and then MailChimp will clean those off, and then you're off and running.
So we've got the list. We start off with, like I said, we've got our 6 we're doing.
Right.
Where we want to grow the list. Often the first thing we want to do is, put something on the initial email that we send to 6 people.
Right.
But then we've got to get outside our own bubble.
Right.
Is the website what to do? Is it having those 6 people, purposely call them up and try to solicit that list out? Like just kind of forward it to people? And how do we get more folks?
The way you get more folks is like you mentioned right there is the website. When you want to build your email list, you have to be in my words, you have to, in my belief, I guess I should say, you have to, number one, be proactive about it. And number 2, you have to be aggressive about it. You don't have to be ashamed or embarrassed by the fact that you're trying to get people on your list. I've got people sometimes that'll get really mad at me. I have a big pop on one of my websites, and it's I'm sorry that you're mad at me, but I'm trying to grow a business. So you go into MailChimp, and there's a way in there to say, give me a form to put on my website. And a lot of us run WordPress, for example. So there's a form you can drop over in your sidebar on your WordPress that says, hey, sign up for my newsletter. And that's the very first thing that you should do when someone doesn't have anything to offer, like a free download or a free MP3 or a free training program. Get people to sign up for your newsletter. And what will that start doing is that is basically, because your website's open 24/7, as long as your website's open 24/7, you're going to start seeing a little bit of growth. Not that many, maybe 1 or 2 a week, but it's better than nothing. It's better than the person that has nothing on their list. And then from there, to be a little bit more proactive about it, you kind of have to tease the person a little bit more. This is what you get if you sign up. I'm going to send you a free toothbrush, or I'm going to give you a free PDF or something like that. But the very first thing is to go into MailChimp and get that form and put it usually, over in the sidebar on the left-hand side or right-hand side of your website.
So if you're in retail, because I know a lot of people are doing content marketing. If you're a thought leader, you're a speaker, you're a guru or whatever. But if you are a brick and mortar store, and like you said, you just got a new retail client, what kind of thing can you do in that newsletter to grow if you're a retail store and you're not necessarily sending out articles, because that's not what you're doing?
If you're a retail organization, that's just usually the clipboard on the counter that says, hey, if you sign up for this, you're going to get a monthly coupon that's going to knock 20% off, or you're going to get invited to a special sale that only our VIP members on the email list going to have access to. That's something else you should do. Is you should treat your email list people a lot better than, I'm going to say, your casual visitor, because they have voluntarily said, I want more information from you. So oftentimes I'll see people get their email list a special name, like here's our VIP list. But if you're a retail organization, like the one we're talking about, for example, what we tell them at the counter is, you're going to get a monthly special, and right away when you sign up, we're going to email you a coupon right off the bat. So we actually have it set up so they can text in, or they can fill a little slip at the counter, put in their email address, and we're going to start talking to them at least weekly to keep them aware of our brand and to make sure they see the benefit of being on the list, and also give them a discount.
Have you found that the giveaway, either a coupon or like a content leader, an article or a white paper or something like that, is that the most effective way to get someone on the list, or have you found something that's just as effective or is more effective?
There are 3 different levels I look at it when it comes to the value of what you give to people. The first one is the newsletter, and that's what you do if you have nothing else. You know what? Sign up for my email list. I'm going to give you this weekly or this monthly newsletter. The second one is I'm going to give you a thing, a freebie, a PDF, or a video, or whatever. I'm going to give you one thing that's going to magically make your world much better than it was 2 hours ago. And the third and ultimate level is a series of things. If you sign up for this list today, I'm going to give you my free 7-week productivity video course, or I'm going to give you my free 30-day how to become a speaker that makes $1 million a week training program. So you have the newsletter, which is not going to get you too many signups because we all get too many newsletters. Then there's the basic freebie, and then there's a series of freebies. And in my opinion, the more you kind of progress along that, the more people are going to be likely to sign up for your list.
So we're sending out the things. We've started our monthly or weekly or whatever interval we've decided.
Right.
And we're starting to see some growth. Now what do we do with the actual list? Because I understand we're going to keep sending stuff out, but that we'll just keep building the list until what? So,
Right.
So what do we do with the list, and how do we work with this list?
What you're doing, the whole point of emailing your list on a regular basis is you're constantly filtering out who are the interested, who are the casually interested people versus who are the people that are extremely interested. And MailChimp has a really good feature for this. In MailChimp, people on your list are rated by stars. You have the 1-star people all the way to the 5-star people. And as you're mailing stuff out to people, you always want to put a call to action there for something to click on. Click to watch this video, click to watch video 2, click to watch video 3. And every single time someone does that, they're kind of given their score. It's almost like their little internal credit score for you inside of MailChimp. And your goal is to kind of pay attention to those people that are really interested in what you're saying and maybe start pushing offers to them of to buy things. Tune in for this live webinar, or here's my $99 course, or something like that. You're constantly filtering people to see who are the interested, who are the casually interested, or who are the most interested. And by the end, let's say you offer like a 7-day course. By the end of the 7-day course, you should be able to kind of separate somebody out into, well, they just kind of wanted that one initial 1-day thing, or they want some more stuff and they're ready to spend some money.
And so are we just kind of constantly, we can still keep everybody on the list, but are we just constantly just kind of pushing the high users onto a different list? Or how are we using the list, like I said, and by separating it? I guess it's called segmentation. How are we segmenting that list? Is there a label we can put on them? Is there like a flag box we can just kind of click?
Yeah. Inside of MailChimp, for example, there's a way, I think, to flag those 5-star. I always flag the 4- and 5-star people, and you can mark them VIPs, and then you can email the VIP separately. I always keep everybody on the list until they voluntarily choose to get off of the list. So, after their initial when they get on your list, you're going to just send them maybe like a regular newsletter. But those people, the people that over time have shown higher and higher interest, you are going to be maybe offering them some training, ask them if they want to set up an appointment to get up with you on the phone. You might, if you're a speaker, you might send them, hey, would you like to have me come to your organization and speak about this topic some more? Do you have a decision maker in your company that can benefit from this information? It's just, like you said, it's constantly a way of segmenting, and MailChimp has those features built in. You can create separate lists based on the number of stars. Even if you just want to do an email blast, you can say, I just want to email blast my 4- and 5-star people. MailChimp has all that segmentation kind of built into it, so who are the interested, who are the casually interested, versus who are the very interested.
And can you segment that list by location?
You can. I think you cross-reference the information. MailChimp has some features where you can feed in some external information and you can cross-reference. And I believe you can look up their social. You can add their social accounts. You can add their sex. You can add their location. And so what you can do is because sometimes the email address isn't enough, and because the internet has so much information about us, MailChimp has worked with some third parties to add more information. So I believe location is one of them, social media accounts is one of them, and like I said, you can separate them into male and female, because maybe you have a product that's more geared towards females and you want to market to that list a little bit differently.
Well, I was thinking about, like, if you're a speaker and you're going to be in Denver in the middle of, let's say, October of next year. You can email your folks that you have in Denver or Colorado area and start trying to get more stuff. So it's almost like a tour. Instead of just doing a one-shot and showing up, maybe get a couple gigs in one area because you knew that all these people are in Colorado.
Right. Now, if you know information about your list, let's say you're adding people one by one because they're past clients or something like that, or just more information about them because you researched them when you're at them. In MailChimp, you can go ahead and add that information into custom fields. So If I have Craig on my list and I may only have his email address, I can always go in behind the scenes and add his first name, his last name, his location, maybe his Facebook account, his Twitter account. I can add all that on there manually. But there are services, like I said, that will almost go look that information up and store it there so you can filter it, because what you're saying is a very good idea. And oftentimes we tell speakers to do that with LinkedIn. We say, if you're going to be in a city, go to all your content and drum up. You can do that with MailChimp. It was a little bit of tweaking though.
And then there's this thing so you have your list, you've segmented your list out. There's this thing that I still haven't done yet because I just don't have enough people. It's called A/B testing, and
Right.
a lot of people who know marketing understand this. My problem is I don't have enough people, so I don't think I have a large enough sample size. So to send out the A/B may not be effective because now I'm getting 3 people's opinion, which is really not anything. So
Right.
so am I catering to Dave or am I catering to Steve when I've got all these? That doesn't help me. Obviously, when you have larger numbers, A/B
Right.
test becomes more effective. Explain the best way you do A/B testing and how do you work with the results?
The whole point of A/B testing, which I was surprised has been done since direct mail time, is to figure out what emotional words in that headline can you get to make people, can you put in the headline to make people do what you want them to do? A lot of marketing advertising is just, unfortunately, it's just really controlling people and getting them to take the path you want them to do. MailChimp has this feature, for example, they say A/B feature testing, where you can take part of your list and send them a certain headline. Maybe it's, how would you like to have, flatter abs in the next 3 days? Maybe that's headlined 1, and maybe headline 2 is how would you like to lose, 3 inches off your buttocks in the next 7 days? You don't know sometimes which one of those headlines is going to be more effective. And so in the online marketing world, you can do really cool things where you send headline A to part of your list, headline B to part of your list. And I believe in MailChimp, you can adjust the numbers, but I believe you can send headline A to 10% of your list. You can send headline B to another 10% of your list, and then after a week, MailChimp will tell you which headline has resulted in more email opens, and then MailChimp will automatically email the remaining 80% of your list the winning headline, because you already know and invested that winning headline has a better chance of people to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you do with the results afterwards? Because if you already sent these things out, you don't want to double up on the people who didn't pick the headline.
Right. So you're just picking a chunk of your audience, and you're only testing a small chunk of your audience, and hopefully, the bigger audience. Maybe if you're only testing, let's say we have 1,000 people. Maybe if you only tested it against 100 people, hopefully that sample of 100 will represent what the full 1,000 will do. So yeah, you're not emailing them twice. You're only doing it once.
They're real sticky for a lot of folks when it comes to any kind of marketing, whether it's direct mail, whether it's email, whether it's phone calls, is touch points. I think a lot of people who are not into marketing, like myself, the fewer touch points, it's not because we just don't want to do it. It's just because we don't want to feel like we're harassing people, because I get upset when people bother me, especially if I get unannounced stuff. Right now, I just bought a couple domains online, and apparently GoDaddy gives out your information.
Right.
So even if you're not going to use that URL for a little bit, you got that domain parked, and you go, I'm going to do this all in 6 months. Well, starting the day you buy it, I start getting all these solicitations for web design, logo design, SEO on this URL that I've used, and it so irritates me that I'm getting all this stuff at once, and I get it a lot. I just keep getting, even if I block them, they come in through a different email address, but it's still the same company.
Right.
How can we avoid being a spammer?
I would say that probably the best way to avoid being a spammer is to pick a time period. Let's say if it's a newsletter-based email address, and don't send something more than once a week if it's a newsletter. Now, if you've told them in the beginning that you're going to email them once a day for a certain period, and that's okay. But set the expectation up front. When you send your first email out to your list, say, hey, my name's Craig Price. I'm going to be emailing you twice a week, once on Mondays, 8 o'clock, and once on Thursdays at 4 p.m. And if you ever don't want to be on my list, just scroll down to the bottom and click the unsubscribe. So set the expectation up front, it's still not going to convince people that they're not getting spammed eventually, but set the expectation up front, then follow that expectation, because it's just basic morals. I guess it's just basic ethical marketing to tell people what you're going to do and then follow that particular plan. Oftentimes, I've been getting on some lists recently where people are emailing me like 3 times a day, and I really do. I want to just reach across the wires and choke those people because they're in the middle of a launch of some sort. When I do get frustrated like that, the first thing I do is I just go down to the bottom and I click unsubscribe, as I just don't need any more email. So, but again, let's just revisit that. Set the expectation up front, let them know about it, and then when someone does complain, remind them, like, you know what, I'm not here to harass you. I'll take you off the list, no problem. I'm sorry you don't want to hear my stuff, but also remember that they're voluntarily signing up. And so in addition to voluntarily signing up, we always give them the option to voluntarily get out.
And a little hint, just so if you do get people who unsubscribe, do not email them directly to convince them not to unsubscribe or to chastise them for unsubscribing. I've heard of that as well. But I have emailed people directly afterwards and asked them, what could I have done, kept them, or what did I do that pissed them off? Because that's just going to make me a better marketer. And oftentimes I don't get a response. Every now and then I get some colorful words, but every now and then I also get some good feedback that said, hey, you know what, you're not my cup of tea, Patrick, because you said this, this, and this. So I'm always looking for feedback to improve my marketing too. I just don't want people to get upset when they have an unsubscribe. What really bothers me is you have someone who's on the list for like 2-3 years,
right?
And they unsubscribe and mark it as spam. It's like, wait a second, you haven't opened it. You can tell it. And you haven't it in 2 years. So yeah, you think this is spam because you forgot that you signed up for it 2 years ago.
Right, and every now and then, in addition to the 2-year ones, I've had people have done it within the same day. So wait, you signed up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by noon you have a far memory span? I mean, what that, people?
So how can we make sure that they actually get what you're sending and it's not going into the spam folder?
There's no 100% way to guarantee that, and that's a constant struggle nowadays, especially with really good spam catch like Google and Gmail. Gmail has best spam catch I've ever seen, and nowadays they'll even separate your email into like tabs, so we're like, here's your marketing emails, here's your personal emails, and here's your newsletter emails. I mean, Gmail has made it probably one of one of the best recent developments to help block spam is Gmail. The best way you can do it is just to make sure your headlines don't contain some of the trigger words. I'm not sure about this in MailChimp, but some of the email programs actually have a way for you to test an email to yourself before it goes out to the list and spam score. And I think the spam scores are rated anywhere from 0 all the way to 5. And it's based on things like make money online, Viagra, I'm lost in Europe and I need you to wire me $5,000 instantaneously. There are certain keywords that the spammers are really good about using in headlines, and you can test your spam score. And as long as you keep your spam score low, your mail has a very good chance of making it to the correct inbox and not in the spam folder.
Well, my last question for you, Patrick, is what is the most unique thing you've heard someone use their list for?
Probably the most unique thing I've heard someone use their list for is to basically take their email list and start, I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to, but start converting those people into text marketers. People say that oftentimes now that email marketing is kind of wearing on people, and people are living and dying by their phones. So I have a lot of companies now that are basically using their email list and turning those into text marketing. So they're text marketing people once a month, their freebie or their newsletter, and they say they're seeing great open rates on those. Outside of that, let me think about that for a second. The most unique thing I've seen people market for is... oh, goodness gracious. I'd have to ponder on that one for a while. I've subscribed to several lists where I've gotten like free t-shirts, free pens, or free things that have put a brand in front of me, and I'll get a freebie, and then I'll put that freebie on my desk, and then boom, that brand, I'm constantly reminded of that brand every single day. And that's a great use of an email list, is to send somebody a real world thing. You take email it, get their physical address, and convert them to a real world cheap freebie you can put on their desk and remind them of your company every single day.
The text thing just scares me because I get irritated with texts in general, and that's if they're sent from my wife or they're sent from anybody else. I mean, it's not that I don't want texts from my wife, and I text her quite a bit because I know she won't pick up the phone at work because she's very busy and does a lot of stuff, but to have a solicitation, I guess that's just the new thing.
That's just a new thing. And again, it's voluntary. When I speak nowadays, I don't even ask people to get on my emails anymore. When I speak, I say, get out your phone right now while I'm speaking and text this code into this number. And the nice part about it, well, number one, it's voluntary, but the nice part about it is my opt-in rates when I'm speaking have shot through the roof. And this is something I personally learned in 2016. I've been speaking on and off since I went into business in 1998. This year, in first week of January, I went to a speaking engagement. I used text opt-in, and I had like 8 opt-in, 20% email. So I'm 100% sold. But again, I'm all about doing it ethically and giving people out. And something else I would encourage people to do is if you have a list that's not responsive, send them an email and say, hey, do you want off? If you want off my list, I don't want you on my list. Click here and get off of my list right away. Force them to not be on your list if you don't want them on your list.
Yeah, I can unsubscribe as a culling, as a useful thing, not as, oh, they hate me, because I think a lot of people take it personally. Don't take it personally. Use it as a good thing. As, hey, that's one less person I have to try to win over. Let's just focus on the people who already like me.
Right. And oftentimes I unsubscribe from email lists just due to email overwhelm. You talked about getting overwhelmed by text. Sometimes I just, if I start getting on too many lists, I'll wake up in the morning and I've got 15 newsletters from people waiting to some of the next best thing. And I chose to be on them, but every now and then I just go on an email purge and say, no more emails. I still love you. I still love your thing. I just can't handle it. It's a personal thing. It's not you. It's me.
Well, Patrick, you are a speaker, you're a consultant, you've got podcasts, you've got YouTube channels. Here is your chance. I want you to market the hell out of yourself in the next 35 seconds.
Next 35 seconds, my name is Pat Allmond. Sometimes they say the chocolate-covered almond, Allmond. Yes, my wife loves that one. And all our years together, you've never heard me say that, Craig?
I have never heard you say that. That is fantastic.
Yes. Oh, the chocolate-covered almond. You can go to my website at allaboutfocus.com or follow me all over social media. I mean, if you just search for Patrick Allmond, Allmond, you're going to find me all over the place. And if you ever need anything or you want to talk about email marketing, you can just email me at patrick@allaboutfocus.com. And once again, I love being on your podcast because it's one of the more comfortable ones and it's casual. I don't have to feel like I have to sit up straight in my chair. I can kick off my shoes and I can talk and relax when I talk to Craig Price.
Absolutely. And don't forget your podcast that you intermittently do once in a while.
Exactly. Well, I have another brand called Stop Doing Nothing, and I have to admit, hopefully that's the one you're talking about, and I have to admit I'm not as consistent a podcaster as Craig is. Craig is a diehard. This guy has it out every single week when he should. But I started up the Stop Doing Nothing podcast again, and I'm doing that on a fairly weekly basis, and that's where I get out kind of my thoughts on life and on business and how to be more ambitious and all the foo-foo motivational stuff. That's what that's for.
And the sad part is that the reason why you don't post is not because you're not doing nothing, it's because you're doing too much.
Exactly. I'm up until 11 o'clock at night doing stuff. I fall asleep in front of the computer sometimes. I am that kind of guy that will work until there's drool coming out of the side of my mouth, and my lovely wife has to come in and kick me and say, hey, you have to go to bed. You cannot sleep in front of your computer because I would, unfortunately.
Well, I guess I need to start my competing podcast, Stop Doing Something, and go to bed.
Exactly. Stop snoring, Patrick. That's what my wife's podcast is going to be, stopsnoringpatrick.com.
Well, thanks a lot, man. And of course, I will see you, I'm sure, sometime in the next couple of weeks. Maybe not. Maybe I'll see you next year, but I'll definitely see you soon, or at least not talk to you.
Exactly. And once again, I love being on this podcast. And start building that list, Craig. I'm going to be on your case about this now.
All right, Patrick, I will skip the normal thanks and get right to the list building. Head to realitycheckpodcast.com and sign up for the newsletter. You can also find links to the app where there's often free exclusives. Email Craig at speakercraigprice.com with comments, questions, and guest suggestions like today's podcast was. Follow Reality Check Pod on Twitter, and please leave a review on iTunes. Thanks, Patrick, and see everyone next week.